Yo, what is up guys, and welcome to another Honkai Star Rail video. So in today's video, I'll be discussing and overviewing some of the next potential limited 5 stars to be released. The 4 upcoming limited 5 stars in today's video discussion are Silverwolf, Luocha, Kafka, and Blade. Silverwolf and Luocha are pretty much confirmed to be released in patch 1.1, but Kafka and Blade's release dates are still unconfirmed. After going over each character's roles and playstyles, I'll be ranking each of them in terms of priority based off my own opinion and judgment. Once again, these rankings are only based off my opinion and are not set in stone. Ultimately, the final decision is yours, and you should be picking the characters you believe will benefit you the most, or whoever appeals to you and allows you to enjoy Honkai Star Rail. One last note before I begin, the characters I'm about to discuss are subject to change, and they may or may not have slightly different skills and playstyles upon their release. So please take everything discussed in this video with a grain of salt. Also, a quick shout out to all the people who are still members in my channel. Thank you so much for the additional support. Alright, let's start off with Silverwolf. She is of the Quantum Element, and she goes down the path of Nihility, which are the debuffers in this game. She's a single target character, except for her technique, which apparently is supposed to hit all enemies upon entering battle. This makes her really good for bossing, however, she's not going to be that great when it comes to farming. She also may not be great against certain bosses that spawn multiple adds, as Silverwolf usually just wants to be targeting one enemy and debuffing them instead of spreading her debuffs across multiple targets. Speaking of her debuffs, she has a lot of them. She has a mechanic where she is able to implant bugs on the opponent using her basic attack, and these bugs have 3 different types of debuffs, which are attack reduction, defense reduction, and even speed reduction. Silverwolf can even provide elemental damage resist reduction on her skill, as well as damage resist reduction on her skill as well. So that's already 5 different types of debuffs, all in one character. That's absolutely insane. And the most unique thing about Silverwolf's kit is actually her ability to implant elemental weaknesses that correspond to the elements of your team. And this can be done through her skill and will last for 3 turns on the opponent. Unfortunately, there is a bit of RNG involved with this skill, so if you're running 4 or 3 different types of elements on your team, it's chosen at random. However, this allows for a new different type of playstyle and team building. Because of this, people might actually start trying to build mono or duo element teams. I think Silverwolf is going to be a really strong character, and her playstyle and kit allows for a lot of flexibility, so she is probably the safest pick of the 4 limited 5 stars. Alright, next we have Luocha. Sorry, I get those two mixed up. He is of the imaginary element, and he goes down the path of abundance, so he's going to be our next healer. Luocha will also be our very first attack scaling healer, and his heals are going to be coming from his skill and talent. Other than his skill being a single target heal, it also has a special mechanic where Luocha will automatically or instantly heal an ally who drops below 50% HP. I'll refer to this mechanic as an emergency heal, since Luocha will not consume any skill points nor energy in order to cast this heal. And I honestly believe that Luocha will allow for more offensive endgame teams. Currently, most players, especially the early game players, are concerned more about survival rather than damage. But when players start getting into the endgame, and they want to 3-star all the stages of Forgotten Hall or Chaos of Memory, I forgot which name it is, Luocha will allow players to play more offensively while still providing heals for that offensive playstyle. On top of that, his heals can actually be buffed with attack buffers such as Ting-Yong and Bronya, so that's another thing you might want to take into consideration. Next, he is AoE or Area of Effect enemy buff removal on his ultimate. This can be very useful against certain enemies. And last, but probably the most interesting part of his entire kit, is his Abyss Flower mechanic, which is on his talent. It can stack up to 3 times, and at max stacks, he'll consume all stacks and deploy this field, which will last for 2 turns. And this field will actually allow for a on-hit healing effect that scales off Luocha's attack. Although I can see this Abyss Flower mechanic being rather difficult to consistently stack, which will result in a wasted field effect. So if your characters are all at full HP and he deploys the field, you're essentially wasting a free heal or a potential heal. And because of this, he's actually not as simple to use as the other 2 available healers, such as Natasha and Bailu. You'll probably just need to change up your playstyle a little bit and plan ahead in order to make the best use of his Abyss Flower mechanic. Alright, now let's get into Kafka. She is of the Lightning Element, and walks down the path of nihility as well, so she's another debuffer. She has a instant DOT damage proc, which enables and strengthens DOT teams on her skill and ultimate. This also allows for DOT teams to have some burst damage, much like the traditional DPS teams. She also has a follow-up attack on her talent, and she'll trigger this follow-up attack whenever an ally basic attacks. And this follow-up attack actually will increase the DOT damage enemies receive for 2 turns. This will also enable and strengthen DOT teams even further. She also has break effect scaling on some of her major traces. And if you guys didn't know, break effect actually also affects DOT damage. The definition of break effect is it enhances the weakness breaks, the amount of damage dealt upon it, the amount of damage dealt by DOT per turn, and how far enemies' actions are delayed. For example, the quantum and imaginary weakness break. And the instant DOT damage procs on her skill and ultimate are increased based off her break effect percentage up to 30%. This opens up the potential for break effect and attack percent builds rather than the traditional crit rate crit damage build. So it'll be quite interesting to see how people build Kafka upon her release. Alright, and finally we have Blade. Unfortunately, there is not much known about this character. Most of the information provided to us is from Closed Beta 2. And because his skills and playstyle is based off CBT2, they will most likely be subject to change. However, we do know he is of the wind element and he walks down the path of destruction. Blade is actually going to be our very first dual scaling character, and he'll scale off both attack and max HP. Max HP having the higher scaling numbers in CBT2. Blade is also unique in the fact that his skills consume and restore his HP. His skill and enhanced basic attack will consume HP, while his talent will restore HP, and his ultimate will set his HP to 50% of his max HP. Blade also has a AoE follow-up attack on his talent, and this will trigger upon consuming HP or taking damage up to 5 times. The damage of course is scaled off attack and HP lost while stacking up his talent. Based on his skills and playstyle, I predict Blade will either be a busted or underwhelming character. Either he's going to completely annihilate enemies while being able to sustain all the damage taken, or be a burden that requires too much attention and resources to keep him alive. So to sum things up, Blade is either going to be a hit or miss, in my opinion at least. Alright, so I've ranked all 4 of these limited 5 stars based on 2 different scenarios. Scenario 1 is for those who do not have Bailu. Even if you have Japard for shields, I still highly recommend this plan. This is because having a second healer will always have its benefits, and you never know, HOYO-verse may or may not introduce new enemies who counter the damage mitigation provided by shields. Starting off with Luocha at rank 1. Obviously, you should pull him because his healing will make your life a lot easier for endgame content like Forgotten Hall. Plus, his imaginary element currently is still quite rare and unique. The only other imaginary character is Welt. In second place, we have Blade, and he's ranked second because his reckless playstyle synergizes really well with Luocha's offensive healing. Luocha can instantly heal Blade in emergencies, and his field provides a lifesteal-like healing effect, allowing Blade to consume health while being able to heal it all back from attacking. However, my only concern is that Blade could be a hit or miss character. Not much is known about his true potential, and at the end, it will all come down to his numbers and final released skill set. Hence why I put him down as a pull or skip. Alright, moving on to Kafka at number 3. Honestly, between her and Blade, their places are interchangeable. The only reason why Blade is ranked above Kafka is because of his potential to be a meta-shifting character when paired along with Luocha. In my opinion, Kafka is probably the safer choice between the two. While I don't see her being a meta-shifting character, I believe she'll always have some purpose in DOT teams. Even if she's released with underwhelming numbers, her skill set allows for unique DOT teams to be viable. So if you want to play it safe, Kafka is your go-to girl. And last, but definitely not least, is Silverwolf in 4th place. Personally, I believe Silverwolf has the most flexibility and long-term use out of these 4 characters. Unfortunately, her banner is right before Luocha's, so unless you want to gamble, you have no other option but to skip her. Alright, here is the second scenario. And this scenario is for those who have Bailu or are crazy and confident enough to progress through the endgame without a second healer. I personally will most likely be following this path. And sitting at the top at rank 1 is Silverwolf. As I stated before, Silverwolf is by far the most unique and flexible pick with her offensive and defensive debuffs. She will allow for completely different team comps to be viable due to her skill. She also partners really well with Zile, for those of you who pull for her. And for those without Zile, she will be another really strong quantum element option. Both Silverwolf and Luocha, in my opinion, are the safest picks out of the 4 limited 5 stars. And then at number 2, we have Kafka. Like I stated before, you really can't go wrong when it comes to picking Kafka. Silverwolf's weakness implanting also allows for more frequent weakness breaks, which leads to more DOT damage and procs. So there's definitely some synergy between Silverwolf and Kafka. And because of this, Kafka ranks second among the 4 limited 5 stars. Okay, now let's talk about Luocha sitting at rank 3. Unfortunately, his banner is right after Silverwolf's, so most people will be forced to skip him, especially if you got unlucky on Silverwolf's banner. If you have a few spare summons, however, I think he still might be worth attempting summons for. His offensive healing playstyle might be more useful than traditional healers like Natasha in the super endgame. I think he's a safe pick just like Silverwolf, so it's up to you honestly whether you want to pull or skip him. And finally, at number 4 we have Blade. Unfortunately, without Luocha, I believe using and building teams around Blade will be much more difficult. Of the 4 limited 5 stars, he's the most difficult to gauge in terms of strength. So just to be on the safe side, I would recommend skipping him for now. Alright guys, well that's going to be it for this Honkai Star Rail video. Once again, these suggestions and rankings are purely based off my own opinion and judgment. At the end of the day, who you decide to pull and summon for is ultimately up to you. Personally, I think all 4 of these limited 5 stars will be strong characters in their own unique way. Let me know in the comments below who you guys plan on pulling for and whether you guys disagree or agree with my suggestions. And of course, if you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, or join if you wish to support my channel even further. But other than that, I'll see you guys in the next Honkai Star Rail video. Peace!